Welcome to the Pod Bay Door.
This is the Pod Bay Door. Join the crew every week for conversations on society, politics, and entertainment with a little bit of comedy and a whole lot of Las Vegas thrown in. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. We're glad you joined us. And if you get the chance, subscribe to us and give us a review on your favorite podcast platform. Also, check in with us on our YouTube channel at the Pod Bay Door Podcast. 1 year, John.
1 year.
Yeah, I'm amazed. We started, technically, we actually had our first one on Valentine's Day of last year. It's been 1 year, and I've had a lot of fun. Podcasting, when I first got the bug, I guess, podcasting was supposedly going to have their biggest year of 2017. And it was going to graduate from just these weenies in the garage to a professional level. And good or bad, that has happened. NPR, of course, it is and was huge in podcasting and radio, and they had an easy transition between what they do and podcasting, and now companies are starting networks of podcasts, including NPR, and then there's little tiny guys like us. And, it's, I think it's, people initially were saying that podcasting was going to be flash in the pan. It was always going to be there, but nobody would care. It was just for, the potential Ted Kaczynskis of the world, just with their manifestos. And I absolutely think it's risen well beyond that. You now, much like the internet, can find a podcast on almost every subject.
Yeah. And the same thing. There's going to be good ones. There's going to be shitty ones.
Yeah. I know production quality, to me, because of what I do, has been most important to me. And when I don't listen to a lot of podcasts, I really don't. I listen to a few to glean techniques, and but as far as subject matter, I don't find a lot of podcasts interesting yet. I probably will. But production quality, I think, is probably the number one problem of new podcasters. It's easy for NPR. I mean, they've got the studios, they've got the gear, and they've got the broadcasting background. But yeah, there's still a large percentage out there that are, just starting out. I mean, it's not bad that they have a low production quality, and sometimes it's good. Now, when I spoke to Chris with Faces and Aces podcast in California, he said he doesn't mind, and he said a lot of his friends don't mind about the quality. He said it's the content. And, I don't know. Now, you listen to this one, obviously, because you're involved. Yeah. Now, do you listen to any other podcasts?
In the past, I'd listened to a few, and I was just kind of bored by them because they just seem kind of aimless.
Yes.
And people trying to fill up time. I think it sounded like it was the next generation of AM radio.
Yes.
AM radio was always that way. The disc jockey never shut the fuck up. They always had to be talking or selling something. And unlike FM, there would be pauses in there because you knew that the disc jockey, at least the stations that I listened to, was probably stoned or just didn't, hey, that was... we're going to play something from Pink Floyd's Uma Guma. It's going to be 12 minutes long, and I'll see you back then. And there might be long pauses, and it just seems so much more relaxed. And but still, I kind of think that like the early days of the internet, you could go to somebody's website and it could look great, and it's going to make you it's going to make the content more appealing.
Yeah.
Than looking at that, oh shit. Wood paneling in the background, really? Or remember when they had the gifts that lit up
Yes.
You know, something obnoxious like that. I don't want to look at it. I don't care how good I can't bear to look at it.
Well, you know, I mean, we jockey back and forth between providing audio and video, and it really just depends on how busy I am throughout the week, you know,
Right.
using my gear and what's available. But you know, video, I don't count video, you know, especially for podcasters, because it is, to do it correctly, even on a small scale, it's very difficult. And it's difficult primarily because of the gear. I mean, a lot of people, you know, most people have a decent DSLR, and they actually take some fantastic, you know, I work with DSLRs, but it's the know-how and the knowledge, and honestly, an audio file is quite easy to kick out. I mean, if you have any editing background at all, you could just kick those out, no problem. But I agree with you. You know, the internet, I think podcasting and the internet can be overlaid onto each other as far as growth and growth potential. The internet now is I think an unmanageable beast, and I don't like it. I don't like social media. I don't like social networking. I don't like any of it, because it's born out of falsehood, you know, or necessity. You know, people say whatever they need to say to garner a response, and I don't like that at all, because it's, you know, and nowadays people are saying, you know, they're turning to the citizen journalists and the social network for news, and my question is why in God's name would you do that, and podcasting included? For truth, I don't see where there's a correlation between truth and podcasting. Podcasting, you know, is either retelling a story that has already been told 400 times 3 minutes earlier, or it is specific data sets, comic books and nerd stuff, or movies, or what, Las Vegas. But as far as truth, I don't know. You know, I don't know. Maybe that's what the gentleman's. You know, we had a review, and thank you very much. This review, PW 73, and it was a strange review. Both John and I agreed. It was 5-star, great stuff, and yet he said take with a grain of salt the rest of the stuff about Vegas.
Yeah, except for the hotels and the food. And I thought, well, what else do we talk about?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, John and I talk about a whole bunch of things. But.
I always said, you know, I was always going to put a disclaimer on those, even the articles that I write.
Right.
I may be full of shit. You may think I'm full of shit. You might say, I hate that restaurant. Hey, that's cool. This is just my opinion.
Yeah.
Or you know, the opinion of where I sent people as a concierge.
Yes.
And nobody came back and complained. And it's quite the opposite. They liked whatever it was, PROs.
Yeah.
You know, if you are at the convention center and you want to take some clients out, you don't want to go too far from there because, you know, it just let out. Right. That's a great restaurant to go to, and it's steeped in history. You got to like that part of it too.
Oh, absolutely,
you know,
absolutely. So. But John, you know, I've had a great time. It's an interesting medium. I think it. I think it actually has an artistic nature to it, podcasting, and I've had a really wonderful time over the past year, and you know, I hope all of our listeners have, and I absolutely hope you have. You've been a great partner to have some great conversations. Now, as far as our guests throughout the year, instead of having them all on, which is, you know, difficult as far as providing mics for everybody, we are going. They have all called in, and I'm going to put together a montage, and this is going to be a 2-part episode. So the first one will be on the will come out on the 13th, and then a week later it'll be part 2. But you will hear all the people that have called in, and all the great guests that we've had, including Julia and Danette and Kelly Schwartz and Sophia. So everybody's called in and said thank you and wished us well, and I'll put that together, and you'll hear that at the end. Before we start, I have a strange story to tell you, John.
All right.
Now, John has a dog.
Yes.
A bad dog.
Yeah, I mean, I usually refer to the dog mockingly as the director of Homeland Security.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And it's a long-haired dachshund.
Yes.
Named
Emmy.
Emmy. Well, Emmy, I have met Emmy. Emmy's okay. I have given Emmy a treat, so she loves me. And you could continually give her treats all day.
Yes. Yeah. I think it's that long body. I think it just can hold. She absolutely has
and if it's anything like my dog, it goes in one end, out the other, and we're ready for treat number 2.
Yeah.
Well, I have 3 dogs, and they're mostly good. They're fantastic. They're
Monty's my favorite.
Monty, yes, Monty. He's a joy. They're joyous animals. They're joyous beings. They're joyous souls. I don't want to get into the thing about cats. I don't care. I love cats too, but they're not dogs. But their joy is something I will never achieve, and I wish I could. If anybody in this world is able to achieve the joy that comes out of a dog, then you can die right now, because that's all you need to do. But back to my story. As I've said over the past year, John, I don't like people, and I make that clear most of the time. And I don't like being a consumer in this world, because it's awful. John spent the morning at Costco, and he can attest to how awful being a consumer is. But I had a gator that I purchased for them, and with what was called Chew Guard.
Okay.
Yes. And this is supposed to be an indestructible gator. And it is by the company, the parent company is Worldwise. The subsidiary is GoDog. And the reason I'm saying this is a positive story, by the way, John. The gator ate it. They ripped him. And this is with the Chew Guard. Well, they do have a guarantee on the packaging that says, if this ever happens, a one-time replacement will be given. Well, how many times have you seen that? You know, where you
all the time you see that. You see that on power surges on your. If it fries your machine, will give you a new power surge. That's not what I need.
Yeah,
I need a new computer.
And you normally, well, I do ignore that, because you think to yourself, yeah, bullshit. It's never going to happen. Well, you know what? Because I love them, and they love this gator, I decided, all right, let's go through the process. Well, an email letter, and then a hard letter later. Out of the blue, 2 days after I communicated with this GoDog company, I received a package. Both my wife and I didn't realize. We order a lot of stuff, so we're like, did you order this? No. Did you order this? No. We open it up, and it's a brand new GoDog with Chew Guard dragon.
Nice.
Yes. And I was so surprised, pleasantly, and so impressed with this that I wrote them an email back saying how impressed I was, and told them that, you know what, with no compensation, I am going to say, you know, how wonderful this situation was, because I can't tell you the last time that I had an exemplary consumer situation, and their response was quick and absolutely timely, and they sent me a brand new dragon for my boys, and they immediately attacked it and have done so every morning since. And
they haven't eaten it.
They have not eaten it, and it's got wings and tail and teeth, but I just wanted to compliment the GoDog subsidiary of Worldwise, because you don't hear about that much.
Yeah.
You know, because of the conglomerates, you know, Amazons and the Verizons and everybody else. Most of the time, when I think about returning something, I get a cramp, and then what do? You don't do it. You're like, you know, fuck it. It was $5. Who cares?
Exactly. So,
but you know what? I did, and they did, and congratulations to them for living up to their advertising and their word. But I just wanted to let you know that.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. So,
you know, one time I remember when this goes back about 30 years.
Yeah.
Closer to 40, I guess. I was home. I was like, 19, 20 years old, and I was still living at home because I was going to college, and my parents were gone, and anyhow, this big box shows up in the delivery. What the hell's in this big box? So I open it, and there were about a dozen large bags of potato chips and corn chips. It was like a stoner's dream. Right? Wow, all of these bags, and it had my dad's name on it. So he called on the phone because, like I said, they were traveling, and I told him, I said, you got this great big box of potato chips, and there's corn chips, and the brand, it wasn't a really big brand. I don't remember what it was, but it wasn't like Laura Scudder's or Frito-Lay or anything. It was an off-brand. And he was laughing. He goes, well, what happened was, while he was traveling on this trip, they stopped at a diner somewhere, and he had a hamburger, and they brought him a bag of chips, and he started eating through the chips, and he said that they were the shits, that a lot of them were broken and they were burnt. So he got annoyed that he had these shitty chips. So He looked at on the back of the bag, and there was the name of the company on there. So he rolled up the remainder of the bag of burnt up potato chips, and he put it in a manila envelope, and he sent it to him. And he says, "Here, you eat these chips." And as a way of saying, "Gee, we're sorry that you got, a really bad bag of chips," they sent him their whole line in like the biggest size that they had.
Wow.
Yeah.
See, that's to me that defines the colloquialism old school.
Yeah.
That's just the way it should be.
Yeah.
For these large companies, Go Dog, Frito-Lay, whatever, they produce hundreds of thousands of these, especially potato chips. And why not?
Yeah.
Why not you're going to get some word of mouth. Good Lord, that's how podcasts, continue to be successful, and ours continues to be successful, is word of mouth. And something as simple as that. An extra, a couple, 3 bags of chips. And you know what? I'm sure you spent that day, or the day was spent saying, "Man, I got some free chips." Shit.
Yeah.
And it takes so little.
There was a company years ago called Super Mac, and they used to make peripherals for Macintosh.
Mm-hmm.
They made monitors.
Right.
And their big thing was monitors. But then they came out with a card that would fit in the I think it was a SCSI card. Back then they used those in the computers.
You're showing your age, John.
Yes, I am. And it was called Video Spigot. It was probably the very first digitizing piece of hardware for that. Well, I found one in the garbage in Japan, because people throw out really good stuff in Japan. They would have what they called Sodaigomi, which means big garbage day, because they don't like used stuff. So I would often find, if I needed something, I would just wait for Sodaigomi, because I'm not Japanese, and I don't mind if something's used. Yeah. As long as it's in good condition. I found bookcases, and a friend had found a bike for his kid and everything like that. Because the Japanese won't touch it because, it's not brand new.
Sure.
So I had this Video Spigot card. I thought, great, I put it in my computer, but I didn't have any software for it. So on one of my trips to the States, I wrote to them, and I said, because they didn't even have email, really, I don't think, back then. I wrote to them and said, I got this card, and I just don't know how to use it because it didn't come with any documentation. I told them, I didn't tell them I found it in the garbage, but I just said that I came across it. Well, they went ahead and sent me Adobe Premiere, the whole full version of that program, which at that time sold for about $350.
Right.
And they said, this is the software we use with it.
Nice,
yeah. And that was it. They paid for the postage, and I got it, and I still have that license for Adobe Premiere.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Premiere Pro is my go-to for video and audio, for that matter, Audition too. And I've talked about the handshake and how I think literally you and I are going to see the handshake go away, at least for a couple generations. And it's the niceties of life that I think have slipped away. This world is difficult to like. I'm not going to be negative and say it's a terrible world or a terrible nation, and go with all the Trumpisms and everything else. But it's a difficult world to like because of how it has graduated into being so shallow. And we'll talk about that in a minute regarding, Las Vegas and its shallowness. But I wanted to bring up, because it's 1 year, and John and I are celebrating here. John has not yet hit the booze, but he's going to. Because it's our 1 year, we're going to have a little bit of a giveaway, and I'll try to make it as simple as possible. What we are going to do is, if you go to, all of our listeners, if you go to iTunes and give us a review, and send me a screenshot, and I'll give you the email where to send that screenshot and the screen name you'd like to use and the information. Or you can also go to Podbean if that's your method of listening to the Pod Bay Door. But go to iTunes, give us a review, send me a screenshot to the Pod Bay Door LV at gmail.com. I'll do that one more time. The Pod Bay Door LV, that's Lima Victor at the end there, at gmail.com. Send me that screenshot, and the first 10 reviews that we receive are going to receive either a Pod Bay Door mouse pad or a Pod Bay Door t-shirt.
Nice.
It's actually your choice. So you would let me know the size of the t-shirt, or if you'd like a mouse pad, and we will send that out to you. you, and we'll let you know when it's coming, and it shouldn't take too long. But again, send your iTunes screenshot of your review to the podbaydorlv@gmail.com, and we'll make those announcements. Actually, the giveaway ends on the 23rd, so we'll make those announcements on the 27th. And if there's any questions, send the questions to the podbaydorlv@gmail.com, and we will. We hope that we get some fantastic response to this, but just let us know. So it's a little bit of a gift from Pod Bay Door to
celebrate 1 year.
To celebrate 1 year. I never thought we wouldn't make it. I just didn't know if I would like it.
Yeah.
But the very first Pod Bay Door episode number 1, I called it The Global Guide to Las Vegas. And I really thought it was interesting. I completely forgot that. I really thought it was interesting as I was thinking about what I was going to talk to John about. Is Las Vegas global? Is it a global influencer, disruptor, power, as it regards real global cities, to which John and I have visited. I don't know if we've been to the 4 corners of the earth, but I think we put our foot on 3 of them.
We've been very close. I think the one, if we look on the Strip, Egypt. I'd love to go to Egypt, or even Africa.
Yes.
I'd love to do that. Haven't done that. It's one continent I haven't been to.
Yeah, not a safe time, for American white guys.
That's been that way for a long time.
Yeah, it has, and that's sad. And I agree with you. But as far as going back to the shallower mark, now that we're talking about Vegas again, we've spent a year, I hope, talking about things about Las Vegas that aren't the typical. There are some really great podcasts out there, and I'll tip my hat again to Chris over there at Faces and Aces, and there's a whole bunch of them. There's one called Vital Vegas, which literally sends, I don't know, seemingly 100 tweets a day regarding what's going on in Vegas. But John and I have taken it upon ourselves to talk about what's the different side of Vegas, the Vegas that people don't vacation for, and the interesting side, and our Area 52s, and everything involving the Vegas that maybe isn't marketed, to across our country and across the world. But I had a question for John, and is it global? Can it stand next to London? Can it stand next to the Barcelona? And all of the truly global cities, ones that have, like Barcelona, that have welcomed the Olympics, which has started again in Korea, which is very strange to me. The Korean Olympics, Winter Olympics, but and how they're dealing with that. I would be the South Koreans. I'd be scared to death. Yeah. I'd be absolutely. But what do you think, John?
Well, I thought about this, and the interesting thing about Las Vegas is, unlike, say, London, San Francisco, my hometown, San Francisco, I always seem to have lived in tourist towns. San Francisco has, why do people, if you're going to go to San Francisco, you've been there.
Yes.
If you've never been there, what is the one thing you want to see? Or what are the couple things you'd want to do in San Francisco?
Oh, on a strange level, the Ghirardelli chocolate, Golden Gate, maybe a cable car, right? And you see, now that has not changed since the '60s, '50s, even. Right. That's it. The Golden Gate Bridge, cable cars, that never changes. Right.
I was reading an essay the other day by Tom Wolfe, the American writer. Tom Wolfe's a prick, but nevertheless, he's a very good writer. Yeah. And in 1965, I think, he released a collection of essays. The book was Candy Colored Tangerine Flake Streamline Baby. And he has an essay in there about Las Vegas. And it's very interesting to read that, because the Las Vegas that he describes no longer exists. Because he's talking about, for example, the Dunes Hotel. Right. He talks about their huge 5-story foot sign. Neither one of them are there anymore. The Dunes, and same with the Sands back in the day, even in the 60s and 70s, these were much smaller hotels. I think the Dunes was 16 stories. The Sands about the same.
Yes.
Now the ones that have replaced...
No, shorter. I think they were shorter.
Were they even shorter than that?
They're in the 12 to 14.
Yeah. So now you're looking at 30, 35, whatever, 40 stories high. So the Las Vegas that Tom Wolfe wrote about in 1965 is no longer there.
Yeah.
Sure, other cities go through things, and London has gone through things as well. They didn't have the London Eye in the 60s. Right. Doesn't matter. It's still London. It still has that history. San Francisco still has its history. Right. Las Vegas history is always being made. So I kind of think of Las Vegas not so much as being a destination, but as being a meta destination. Mm-hmm. And by that I mean, we have, in linguistics, we talk about meta language, which is language about language. So describing, adjectives and verbs, these are words that describe the function of other words. Right. So Las Vegas, is a destination, but it's a destination that pays tribute to other destinations. Yes. So we have the Eiffel Tower. It's not the real Eiffel Tower, right, but it looks like it. So you can come see that. We've got St. Mark's Square. Hey, they took the same, or Doge's Palace. They took the marble out of the same quarry that made that one, right, made the replica at the Venetian. We talked about it. Yeah, it looks great. It's just cleaner. There's no graffiti and no pigeon shit to deal with. But so Las Vegas to me is
fewer pickpockets.
You're right, and fewer pickpockets.
Right.
So it's hey, what better place than the desert with the mirage? Mm-hmm. It gives you that illusion of these places. Yeah. So can it be on its own merit? I think it kind of is an homage to all of these other places that really do have a sense of being there.
Strangely, and you speak of Tom Wolfe being sort of a prick. I enjoy the work and the productions of Anthony Bourdain. Yeah. I absolutely think he's a douchebag.
Yeah, he's a douchebag.
But I got to tell you, his production company and his director and producers, they do an amazing job with his travel show, which has been going. I didn't realize how long he had been in the business. But I take stock in where he goes, because he goes to obscure places, but he also goes to like Parts Unknown is one of his
I
shows.
like that one.
And then there's The Layover. What are you going to do if you're in a town for an hour or 24 hours?
Yeah, and you're hungover.
Yeah, exactly. And I have to say that I take stock into where he goes and give credence to those cities, may they be obscure or not. Now, Las Vegas qualified. I have to say, he went to Las Vegas not once but twice. Now he gets to see the Las Vegas of affluent people. I mean, he is friends with all the chefs, Nobu being one of them. And he gets to see the Las Vegas that a lot of people don't, even you and I get to see the places where he went, but usually, without the chefs there and without patronage. Yeah. But I think Las Vegas does qualify. However, I think for the same reason you said, because it is a meta destination, that strengthens the fact that Las Vegas tends to be and is quite shallow. And I think that's maybe what has happened to it. Chris from Faces and Aces was here recently with a group called Oceans 14, Oceans 14 XL, I believe. And they come here to enjoy. It's a group of people to come here and enjoy Vegas and enjoy the trappings of it and truly just be consumers. They're podcasters as well, so they take and pick and choose what they want, and then they go talk about it on their podcast. He said something that I found interesting. He is a longtime visitor of Las Vegas, and he said that it's sort of sneaking into his subconscious in the back of his head that getting a little tired of it. Now, how do you feel? You've lived here how long?
Let's see. I've lived, I guess, 12 years total. Okay. Maybe longer.
All right. I've been here a lot longer.
You've been here longer than because I came twice. So
27 years.
Wow.
Yeah. But you and I, when Chris comes, he comes to be Vegas. He comes to be a part of Vegas. Being here 27 years, I have learned how to circumvent Vegas when I need to. But that's not actually what I mean by the shallowness. Now you and I, or especially me, but I have taken great pride into making fun of the millennials throughout the last year. In fact, to the point where I actually tweet, don't think bad of me. I tweet. And I tweet about the podcast. I don't tweet about anything else because it's nothing personal for sure. But I tweet about the podcast just to see, responses and, so people know what's going on. but I tweet about the millennials on Mondays, and I say no millennial Monday as a hashtag. Now, do you think that millennials are affecting Vegas to make Chris and other oft visitors of Vegas think that? Do you think the millennial influence is hurting Vegas, is helping Vegas? What do you think? How do you define a millennial?
Well, I think it's that generation that probably came of age around the millennium.
Yes.
So these are going to be people who are, and they're now the second largest group after baby boomers.
Yes.
I understand. And with baby boomers getting older and then they die out.
Yeah.
My sister is 13 years older than I am.
Yes.
And so we kind of are the bookends of the baby boomers. So so she came at the beginning, I came at the end.
Right.
So I kind of often feel like I don't have a generation because I'm kind of not part of hers since she's in her 70s and I'm still in my 50s. On the other hand, I'm kind of before the people who were born after 1960 since I came in in 59. So, I mean, again, the city, as I mentioned with Tom Wolfe,
right.
and even looking at that the movie that I took clips from, screenshots for the blog article of this Night Stalker, just how much the city has changed, and it will. That's why I think they try to overcome what Chris is going through. This idea, like I've already seen this. So they continually reinvent themselves. Now, sometimes those reinventions are not going to be very pleasant, in which case, just hang on, it'll reinvent itself again. We all went through the family Vegas. You remember that in the late night? That was awful. Thank you, Steve Wynn.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, this kick in the nuts is for you. We went through that. They realized that didn't work. People didn't want to come here with their families.
Right.
People were coming here to get away from their families.
Yes.
Once they realized that, then MGM had the theme park. Remember that ridiculous thing that shut down.
Yeah, it wasn't a great theme park, and they had some great Halloween celebrations at the. If people don't know, the MGM Grand had a huge square. Oh gosh, I think it was over 350,000 square foot paddock that was a complete theme park with roller coasters and rides and such, and it lasted a while, but no, it went by the wayside because obviously it really wasn't a revenue generating. They one penny slot machine would probably beat them. But yes, absolutely. Well, speaking of Mr. Wynn, what do you think about him resigning? He did not only resigned from the RNC, his position there, but he resigned from his own company, his own corporate entity, the Wynn Enterprises. Yeah. What do you think about that?
Well, we talked about this before. The allegations are old. We already knew this. Yes. I mean, I knew this 15, 20 years ago. So it's kind of like, should Clarence Thomas step down from being a Supreme Court justice? I would wish he would. I mean, he is the quintessential Uncle Tom. And this is a guy who was, for all of the time he's been on the Supreme Court, or until Anton Scalia died, was basically just his ventriloquist dumb. He just sat there and whatever Scalia said, this guy went with. Yeah. But 1991, Anita Baker.
No, Hill.
Thank you, Anita Hill. Baker's a singer.
A lovely singer.
Yes. This is what happens when you get old. The synapses sometimes they cross. Shit. Yes, Anita Hill. I knew I got the Anita part right. Yeah. But hey, it was sexual harassment allegations against him. They had hearings on it, and they blew it off basically. Yeah. And he's allowed to serve and forever. Mm-hmm. So now here it is, and pretty much Steve Wynn was accused of the same type of behavior. Yeah. And he paid out money. Yes. So now they're coming back and kind of in retrospect throwing him out. I think Claire, can he be next? I mean, hopefully, but I mean, I don't see that happening. But so I don't know what to make of. I really don't. I'm thinking, was his behavior ongoing? That's what I don't know, and it's frustrating to get anything out of the media. Right. They always talk about the accusations. They really don't go much deeper than that, and I think that is one of the problems we have with this shallowness. Yes. There was a book in 1986. Neil Postman wrote. It's prophetic. It's still relevant today, particularly the title, "Amusing Ourselves to Death." And he was writing a criticism of television. Of course, they didn't have internet. So technologically, the book is dated. But he was talking about television and the impact it had on the political process. And basically, it dumbed everything down.
Yes.
That's the nature of television. And it's the same thing he even said, so-called quote-unquote educational TV programs like Sesame Street. Yeah, it's educational for a TV program.
Right.
But otherwise, you're not going anytime. Anybody can turn on any show at any time if it's an informational program and pick up on what's going on. It's not like this is an advanced course. You have to have been here for the first 17 episodes to really follow what's going along. So it's always at a very low level.
Yeah. Now, we've talked about Las Vegas being able to adapt to almost everything. Thanks to everyone listening and watching. You can catch the Pod Bay Door on the Podbean app or any of your favorite podcast apps, including iTunes, Google Play, TuneIn, and Stitcher Radio. You can watch the show on our YouTube channel at the Pod Bay Door Podcast. Please download, like, and subscribe. Our social connectivity screen is coming up. Check in with us on Facebook, Twitter, and WordPress. The Pod Bay Door is closed and talent is out. Hey everybody, thank you very much for tuning into the show. We would love to hear your show suggestions and comments. If you are watching on our YouTube channel, please click to subscribe. You can also connect with us on Facebook using @PBD Podcast, on Twitter using @TPBD Podcast, and on WordPress at thepodbaydoor.wordpress.com.